and welcome to the World Toilet Summit of 2018. This incredible platform was founded in 2001 for bringing together various experts, NGOs, the private sector and the government institutions to discuss and scale up the impact of improved sanitation. It was a time when water and sanitation were not even a part of the global agenda. But today, it is the 6th Sustainable Development Goal for 2030. So stay tuned to find out the future of sanitation. Designed to draw international attention to the sanitation crisis, the annual World Toilet Summit is an initiative of the World Toilet Organization from Singapore.
In the beginning, in 2001, people find the subject very embarrassing, so they call it water. And when you call something else, you only talk water, not sanitation. So I started to call ourselves the World Toilet Organization. They love it, and now it's a very, very powerful movement.
Out of almost 1 billion people in the world without access to clean water and sanitation, over 500 million still reside in India, making it a befitting host for the summit in Mumbai.
India is hosting it because I think we have a lot to learn from India in terms of the Swat Bharat campaign, and obviously the government's dedication to being ODF free is something that's really inspiring in order to understand how to be not only ODF free, but how to improve water and sanitation access and eventually the health of all Indians as a result.
Having a healthy nation, especially young people, you can become a big, second biggest economy in the world.
Each day of the summit began with powerful keynote speeches delivered by experts in the wash sector.
Our entire organization to really take up the sanitation challenge and to make sure that we're doing all that we can in order to promote not only good health and hygiene, but a cleaner world.
We have toilets, it's great, but now we need waterless toilets because no water, no toilets.
Knowledge has been developed by various organizations. And now what this advisory is doing, it's compiling all this to a comprehensive manual that can be used by the practitioners on the ground, by the urban local bodies and so on.
The overarching theme of the summit was When Nature Calls, and all the panel discussions were focused on its sub-themes.
When Nature Calls is a panel that discusses about the treatment of the excreta. So after we shit, we cannot just throw it into the river or into a public dump because either the flies will spread the disease or that it will contaminate our drinking water, our rivers, our canals.
The first panel discussion highlighted the journey of India towards becoming open defecation free and its sustainability.
हम लोग का आबादी देखिए और इस आबादी एक स्टेट एक कंट्री का बराबर है दुनिया का। उस हिसाब से हम लोगों ने एक इसको जन आंदोलन में बदल दिया। एक तो सस्टेन करने के लिए आपको सस्टेन प्रेशर चाहिए। दैट मीन्स रोज काम करना पड़ेगा। ऐसा नहीं है कि एक दिन काम कर गया उसके बाद हाथ उठा दिया बस हो गया। ऐसा नहीं होता।
It's absolutely amazing what has been achieved, and I think yet again it's a testimony of like bringing forces together. I don't think any company or any NGO or even either any government can make just that single change. It is the combination of forces that enables this. But the next stage is yet to come, which is about the real sanitation and the hygiene.
I want to see my country.
Ways to step up India's sanitation and hygiene were the central point of focus for the next panel discussion.
जो खोया उसका गम नहीं, लेकिन जो बचा है वो किसी से कम नहीं। बहुत बचा है भारत के पास। शुरू हो जाएगा।
For decades and decades, the issue of water and sanitation was really addressed by dedicated international organizations, governments, NGOs, organizations which were working really hard to drive consumer behavior change, to look at ways in which we can create demand in villages, community by community. But what hadn't really happened was innovation, thinking much more broadly about all the sectors, all the actors in a social ecosystem.
Sustainable sanitation, in the past we were often concentrating only on the toilet. But sanitation is a closed loop system. It has to go beyond the toilet. We have a sanitation service chain. We have to treat, transport, and then to reuse or dispose it very safe, and to look at all these aspects in a sustainable way. That's sustainable sanitation.
शौचालय तो है, मतलब फिर तू इधर क्यों कहता है? कहता खुले में मजा आता है.
The contribution of individuals and the media to the cause of sanitation in India was emphasized in a unique discussion joined by India's toilet ambassador, Akshay Kumar.
जब आएगी सो आएगी. ये जो blame game जो होता है कि सरकार ने ये नहीं किया, ये नहीं किया, वो नहीं किया. मैं तो ये कहता हूँ सरकार को छोड़िए, आप अपना टॉयलेट खुद बनाइए. 12,000 मिले तो अच्छी बात है, ना मिले तो भी अच्छी बात है. आप अपना टॉयलेट बनाइए, because सबसे important है आपके खुद के परिवार की हेल्थ. I'm a very lucky person जिसको एक मौका मिला है कि I'm in a place which is called cinema, a film industry, where I can do commercial cinema and give them the social message in a very different way, in a very like I have seen it. मैं इसलिए कह रहा हूँ क्योंकि ये फिल्म से फर्क पड़ेगा. मैं जानता हूँ इस फिल्म से फर्क पड़ेगा. पैडमैन फिल्म से फर्क पड़ेगा. फ्री ऑफ कॉस्ट दिखाई जाए, बच्चों को दिखाई जाए. It is a compulsory thing. It's a very honest film which we made. Me and my wife have made along with Balki, and I would just hope that one day it becomes a compulsory thing for every children to watch this film.
Just like cinema, faith molds people too. And the panel discussion, It's All About Faith, showed how it's done.
I have seen the faith has an amazing power. 84% people all over the world believe in one faith or other faith. The transformation came to me when I saw my mothers, sisters, waiting for the darkness just for the nature calls. I was very much in pain. I said, done. I decided to change my focus from temples to toilets. And now I can see the faith leaders are coming amazingly together. We started with health and hygiene, and now it became a 3H program: health, hygiene, and harmony. That's why our session was, it's all about faith.
From the miracles of faith, the panel discussions turned to the marvels of innovation.
Innovation is important because human excreta is basically a fertilizer, but it also spreads disease. So we need the innovation to stop the disease, but to also reuse the fertilizer value so that we can continuously have a organic closed loop cycle.
Actually, we announced a new technology partnership where we are going to reinvent the toilet. Now, if you're wondering, what does that mean? Right? The Gates Foundation defines a reinvented toilet as a toilet that uses minimal to no water or energy to operate, kills all human pathogens on site, turns waste into a resource, and costs less than 5 American cents per user per day.
High-end innovation in the water and sanitation industry is definitely going to improve the condition of hygiene and create a pathogen-free environment. On the other hand, there are some Indians who have rediscovered and reinvented some old and simpler mechanisms to create the same impact. It's time for a break. Don't go anywhere, because we'll be back with the ecological toilet. There seems to be a lot of talk about building toilets and very little on what happens to the fecal matter which comes out of the toilets. Dry, manure-making natural toilets seem to be answering this problem with absolutely no difficulty. Let's take a look.
It's easy in India to build a toilet, but it's not easy to run the toilet because you need a lot of water. Now, if the human feces is not allowed to come in contact with water, no pathogens can be bred in it. If you keep it dry, the root of the problem, there is no problem at all. The problem vanishes, it becomes a resource. Every time we use the Western toilet, we learn to flush. Similarly, every time you use this toilet, we need to spray that with little ash or with little compost, and once that bin is full, you can just keep it in the terrace with a lid, and then it dries up, and you can see this dried up feces has got no smell. You can see I'm smelling them, absolutely neutral.
Along with the ancient Indian toilet, the summit also housed new age toilets from Japan.
Our target audience is the peri-urban and rural communities. These products are meant to be affordable, but yet very efficient at making toilets safe. So they have this innovative trap door system that automatically closes after you make a flush, and it totally separates the waste from the human environment. And it flushes on about 1 liter, half a liter to 1 liter of water, which is 80% less than any conventional toilets out there.
A model of the highly commended and widely used two-pit toilet also featured at the summit.
This is for individual household toilet, because sewer is not solution for India's. Two-pit port flush system, basically on-site disposal of human waste. In that system, we construct two pit. One is used at a time. When this one is full, just block first one, divert into second one. By the time, within 1.5 years, it converted into manure like this.
Beyond cheap toilets, the panel discussion looked at financing large-scale infrastructure as well as the level of equity in the wash sector.
We feel that there are certain things for which people are willing to pay, like they're willing to pay for their own toilet. And their microfinance, self-help groups have done a great job even for poor people to make toilets affordable. But then what about the common infrastructure of how do you collect that waste, transport it, treat it so that it remains safe, it stays away from the environment, doesn't make people sick. And so we talked about blended capital in the sense of private users paying a fee, government paying some subsidy to a company which provides a service. So that could be in the form of taxes, it could be in the form of tariffs, but you need for each part of the value chain, and depending on local geographies, some places people cannot pay much, so then the government or some sort of long-term investor or philanthropy, CSR, has to step in and pay more. And in places where people can pay a higher fee and that the gap financing is smaller, there you can have even loans or development banks can come in, because it does become kind of context specific.
Water and sanitation particularly has now come through what is the regulator-led solutioning to a sectorial shift that is happening. It's going to be market-driven solutioning. We are right at that cusp between ODF and ODF++ and ODFS. And so this big shift would happen. And this shift cannot happen without credit financing, mechanisms, people taking ownership, behavioral change happening over there, and the whole sector imbibing it.
And India is reaching that point. So we see that over the next 20-30 years, India is going to spend a lot of money on urban as well as rural infrastructure. Now you're going to need companies, both small companies and big companies, that can build this infrastructure, design the technology, service and maintain it. So you really need a whole a larger ecosystem of players to create this, to improve sanitation in India.
Towards the end of the summit, the panel discussion steered to the most tedious yet important part of the problem: fecal sludge management.
This will be one of the most expensive failures in history if all we've done is funnel the shit into toilets only to stick it back in the fields where it came from. Even the capital city of India, Delhi, only treats 40% of its sludge. And we don't even know where this is getting dumped. So if you plan it right, water, which is a scarce resource, is actually saved through the treatment process. So the answers for us are: what are the technologies for treatment? Why must we follow the way of the Western world and do large sewage facilities? Rather do small ones the way Malaysia and Indonesia has done, and have a distributed system which is monitored, which works, and where there is training given to operators who can do it right. We can create 1 million jobs from people who are in the business of running FSTPs, of ensuring the sludge is treated correctly, and the wealth that comes from treating this waste by using it as fertilizer or the water capture, etc., are very, very key parts of this.
Empowerment through sanitation became a hot topic during the By Her, For Her panel discussion.
I actually had to experience with the women of the family to go out at night. So I know what we're talking about here.
Swachh Bharat has tried to involve women in non-traditional roles, such as construction of toilets through mason training, or really increasing their participation and leadership in sanitation and hygiene conversations. But what this panel is looking at is the bigger question of gender equality in India. How perhaps as India achieves 100% sanitation and no one defecates in the open anymore, whether really this will also move the conversation on women's voice, agency, participation, leadership and choices going forward.
The whole debate on sanitation would be incomplete without the inclusion of behavioral change, the last and final chapter of the World Toilet Summit.
It's not only building toilets and making an impact, it's all about behavioral changes.
You know, we keep talking about demand-driven policy change, that we want people to want toilets. However, we forget that you need to have demand-driven and accountability-driven policy change, because if you don't create a sense of ownership over the superstructure of sanitation and hence a modicum of accountability, what you have is very limited kind of behavior change. What you need to do is drive accountability, get individual ownership over the value chain of sanitation, not just the toilet. I care about where my fecal sludge goes. I care about how it is treated.
Toilet is the cheapest medicine in the world. If you prevent illness, you don't have to cure it.
Sanitation is meditation.
If we want to have a nice world, we have to do it together.
The impact of climate change has become apparent, and so has the role of access to clean water and improved sanitation in climate change mitigation, which has been greatly emphasized at this conference, along with some solutions and best practices. But cleanliness truly begins at home. So we need to think, what is it that you and I are doing to work towards a sustainable future?